Chaps, I'll be blunt, you know exactly how these kinds of videos work. If you don't, well then Google an explanation for iceberg charts, you bone-idle knobhead. And if you're too lazy to do something as simple as that, I fully respect it. Here's a bit of text telling you all about it, champ. We're going to be covering one that I made myself today, which has a whole bunch of mysteries and hoaxes from across the Sonic franchise's 35-year history. If I missed something major or one so obscure that only 3 or 4 people have ever heard of it, I don't care. I really don't care at all. Don't even think about telling me in the comments because I will not reply and tell you how awesome it sounds or that you're the coolest person in the world for bringing it up. So without further ado, shut your cake hole and watch the video. Sonic 1 prototype and beta hoax. Sonic 1, and by extension the character himself, made their public debut at the 1990 Tokyo Toy Show in a short tech demo made for the event. This is the most well-known prototype of the game, and has several drastic differences to the final release, like Sonic's sprite, the more realistic background, the lack of water or rivers, and the inclusion of this fucking abomination from the early concept art. According to Yuji Naka, this prototype was planned to be included in Sonic Mega Collection until they discovered that the ROM had been lost internally at Sega. At the time of this video's upload, it still hasn't been found, and the circumstances of how it got lost in the first place are a complete mystery. The likelihood of locating and recovering it is slim too. Sega's a massive company, and I can only assume that its archives are equally massive. We just have to hope that it wasn't thrown out by mistake at some point in the last 3.5 decades, and is still sitting on an old hard drive collecting dust, waiting to be discovered. This is the holy grail of Sonic mysteries, and I'd be very curious to learn what other early assets are in the data for this prototype. As for the beta hoax part of this entry, this came about in 1999 thanks to Cyan Helcarax, who, according to Sonic Retro, wanted to stir up more interest in Sonic 1 among the Sonic community. He did this by creating a ROM hack of the game, something that hadn't been done up until that point, and subsequently uploading it to Simon Wai's Sonic 2 beta website under the name Sonic 1 Beta, purposefully avoiding calling it a hoax. The truth would eventually come to light, of course, creating a lot of controversy, as Cyan puts it on his website. It did lead him to joining the Sonic Stuff research group though, as well as countless more ROM hacks of the original Mega Drive games being made by the community. I won't go into all the changes that he made for this hoax. If you want to see them for yourself, then I'd highly suggest playing the hack, or reading the page for it on Sonic Retro, which delves into a bit more detail about it. Sonic and Tails in Smash Melee. In the 153rd issue of Electronic Gaming Monthly, writer Chris C.J. Johnston penned an article called Smash Bros. Academy, sharing obscure information about Super Smash Bros. Melee with readers. The most notable was his claim that Sonic and Tails were both playable after achieving 20 KOs in the Cruel Melee mode, at which point both characters would challenge the player at the same time. Winning would not only unlock them, but also reveal a special surprise after finishing Classic mode as either character. This could easily be disproven by achieving 20 KOs in Cruel Melee and the images in the article itself. The models are clearly from Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, and the icon is totally different from the character portrait, which is just a render from Sonic Adventure. To be fair, it must have been a pretty bloody convincing hoax for the time, as quite a few people did indeed fall for it, and were offered a chance to win a free copy of Sonic Adventure 2 Battle if they could get the top 10 highest scores above 20 KOs in Cruel Melee as compensation. Michael Jackson's Sonic 3 soundtrack. Alright, this is my personal favourite mystery relating to the Sonic series. It's no secret that Michael Jackson was involved in producing the soundtrack for Sonic the Hedgehog 3, given that multiple staff members at Sega, as well as collaborators of Jackson like Brad Buxer, have outright confirmed it over the years. The big question is, how much music did Jackson compose, and what the hell happened exactly? We know with almost 100% certainty that he was involved in the tracks for Carnival Night, Ice Cap, and Launch Base, along with the themes for Knuckles, the mini-bosses, and the credits, given that they were all replaced with different tracks in some re-releases and their similarities to other songs by Jackson. However, Roger Hector has claimed in the past that Jackson had recorded an entire soundtrack that covered all of the worlds that was scrapped late in the development process and subsequently redone by Howard Drossin. If true, this would mean that there are numerous unheard songs Jackson and his team made for the game that could be in the possession of the Jackson estate or maybe even Sega, but nobody else has backed up Hector's claims. Drossin himself stated that, "If MJ's tracks influence some of the music, it is a coincidence as far as I know." Yeah, there's a lot of conflicting accounts surrounding this subject and why Jackson goes uncredited in the final game, as you'll quickly discover if you decide to research it for yourself. Buxer claims that Jackson left the project and wasn't credited because of his dissatisfaction with how the tracks sounded on the Mega Drive's sound chip, while Roger Hector has alleged it was because of the sexual abuse allegations against Jackson, and others such as Tom Kalinske have stated that he didn't have any real involvement in it. This topic is such an insane rabbit hole that I want to spin it off into its own video eventually. It leaves so many more questions than answers, and nobody involved can come to any kind of consensus on it, so I'm gonna stop banging on about it now, otherwise I'll never shut up. Two Worlds. Two Worlds refers to a now decanonised and very confusing part of Sonic lore in which the games take place in, well, two different worlds. This was first brought to light around the time of Sonic Colors' release, where Takashi Iizuka revealed in an interview that, "We have two different worlds for Sonic games. One is human, and one is set on the non-human side." This baffled a lot of fans, to say the least, because there was nothing in any game prior, or since for that matter, to suggest a game taking place on a separate planet from another game in the series. People questioned if by the non-human side he actually meant the games took place in different societies on the same planet, but a few people like Ian Flynn and Aaron Webber said that they had been told by Sega that, yeah, there were literally two different worlds. This led to years of heated debate online and speculation about which games took place on which planet, as well as the occasional claim from someone within the company like Kevin Eva that everything was set on one world the whole time. At the end of the day, it's not canon anymore, so it doesn't really matter, and the only mystery surrounding it that remains is why they never showed or alluded to it in the games. Rankles. The 11th issue of the UK-published Sega magazine gave readers the opportunity to win £1 million if they sent in a photograph of a supposedly secret playable character in Sonic & Knuckles called Rankles the Otter. This was obviously a joke, and they admitted as much on the same page, saying you needed to call Alcoholics Anonymous if you spotted him. But apparently some British Sonic fans couldn't fucking read back in 1994, so a number of them went to try and find this little gremlin to win the prize. At one point, a 6-year-old kid got his dad to write into the magazine to ask if Rankles would appear in any future games, forcing the writer of the letters page to shatter this poor child's dreams by informing him no, because they made him up. It must have been like finding out Santa isn't real for little Christopher. Absolutely hilarious. Cut levels from Sonic 2 and Sonic CD. This one is very self-explanatory. 11 additional zones were planned for Sonic 2 that ultimately had to be cut due to time constraints, these being Blue Lake Zone, an unnamed Circus Zone, Fire Mountain Zone, Hidden Palace Zone, Ocean Wind Zone, a zone set on a planet with a giant gold ring around it that was inspired by the Death Star and thought up separately from the Death Egg, funnily enough, Rock World Zone, Sand Shower Zone, Tropical Sun Zone, Wood Zone, and the infamous Genocide City Zone, which would later be renamed Cyber City Zone for obvious reasons. Sonic CD, meanwhile, only has one zone that was cut from the final game, that being Dubious Depths or Ridicule Route, which you can get a brief glimpse of in the ending animation. We have a lot of mock-ups and concept art for these zones, and some are even playable in beta builds like Hidden Palace and Wood Zone, but there's still plenty of things we don't know, like if certain zones had any assets made, the level layouts, what badniks they might have used, why they were cut instead of some zones we see in the final game, and any potential level gimmicks. I guess we can also count Desert Dazzle and Final Fever as being cut levels, since they were planned for the 2011 remaster of CD before being removed, as Sonic Team didn't want it to stray too far from the original release. The Moon. In Sonic Adventure 2, Eggman uses the Eclipse Cannon to destroy a chunk of the moon. In every single game after this, the moon's completely fine for some reason. Did it just go,
"'Tis but a scratch."
A scratch? Your arm's off.
No, it isn't.
Well, what's that then?
I've heard worse.
Iizuka has tried to explain that the part that got blown up was actually the dark side of the moon, which faces away from Earth, even though the cutscenes in-game show the destroyed area facing the planet. This led to theories that the moon somehow rotated to show the intact side seen in future games, or that it got rebuilt off-screen like in Sonic X. We'd finally see the broken moon again in the Dark Beginnings animation, but for whatever reason, this didn't carry over to Shadow Generations itself, where it's depicted as being A-OK during the cutscene with Sonic and Shadow fighting. I can't believe that something as simple as the appearance of the fucking moon is a total anomaly, Jesus Christ. Status of Classic Cast in the modern era. There are several characters like Mighty, Ray, Honey, Fang, and Metal Knuckles to name a few that have never appeared in any of the modern titles. Out of universe, we know this is because they're considered part of the classic world. But what about in-universe? Where did they go? What happened to them? Tails Tube has revealed that some are off exploring the world, while the likes of Bean and Bark remain wanted criminals. However, the status and whereabouts of many others has yet to be explained, and likely never will be. Hidden Palace Mural. I'll keep this one brief. There's a mural in Hidden Palace Zone that shows Super Sonic fighting Robotnik for the Master Emerald, foreshadowing the Doomsday Zone at the end of Sonic 3 and Knuckles, which is so goddamn cool. The identity of who created the mural, and presumably the prophecy surrounding the events of this game, remains unknown, and I hope it stays that way to leave room for headcanons and fan-made stories set in the past. Nazo. An early trailer for Sonic X featured a very mysterious hedgehog-esque character, with the file name for the image of it on Sega's website reading nazo.jpg, a Japanese word that translates to mystery, riddle, or enigma in English. Fans speculated that this could be a brand new character exclusive to the show, or possibly a redesigned Hypersonic, only for him to never appear in any episode whatsoever, leading to further speculation about what the hell happened to him. It wasn't until 2015 that we got somewhat of an answer, as Izuka explained in a Facebook message that Nazo was in fact the show's early design for Super Sonic. The reason why they gave him such a drastic redesign and why it went unused is unknown, and it's so weird to me that it appears right after we see the version of Super Sonic we're all familiar with in that same trailer, but at least we know who this was supposed to be now. Nazo has gone on to become a staple within the Sonic fandom, thanks to several animations, fanfics, comics, and much more. Long may this continue. Knuckles in Sonic 1. By now it's fairly common knowledge that Sonic Team had originally planned to make Knuckles playable in Sonic 1 through the use of lock-on technology, but had to scrap the idea due to colour palette issues and the level design not being suited to his gameplay style or abilities. Many Australian fans wouldn't have known this if they picked up the 44th issue of Sega Megazone magazine though, as it showed off an image of Knuckles running through Green Hill Zone, and understandably made them believe that it was possible to play as him in the original game. Until they tried it and were greeted with a screen effectively telling them to fuck off and play Blue Spheres instead. The magazine supposedly clarified in a later issue that this was a mock-up image someone on their staff had made, but I couldn't find any instances of a retraction in the ones that I skimmed through, so you'll have to take the word of people on Reddit who vaguely remember that being the case, I suppose. Tails was supposed to be a girl. I used to see and hear this all the time online growing up, and it still persists online to this very day. So, to clarify, no, Tails was not originally planned to be a girl. Yuji Naka confirmed this way back in 1993, stating, "That was all just wild rumour. He was a boy from the very beginning. In fact, Tails' name was actually Miles for most of the time." I totally get why people might have mistaken him for being a girl. It's always been a common misconception for new fans to the series, but I don't have a clue how the idea he was originally supposed to be one got started. That being said, Tails was female in the original Latin-Spanish dub of Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog as a result of mistranslations, which may have been a possible origin point. Who knows? Cancelled Archie stories. Because of the licensing partnership between Sega and Archie ending in 2017, as well as the lawsuits involving Ken Penders that took place a few years prior, many ongoing and planned storylines within the comic had to be drastically altered or outright scrapped. Some examples include issues 291 and beyond of the main series, the original conclusion to the Mecha Sally plotline, Bunny getting legionized, Amy becoming a Guardian of Time in the Light Mobius universe, the introduction of Anti-Shadow and Anti-Silver, Dr. Finitivus having a major role in the lead-up to issue 275, and the Metal Virus saga originally being planned to occur after issue 300. These are just scratching the surface, so I would strongly recommend that you check out Mobius Encyclopedia's pages about unreleased publications and abandoned and unused concepts if you want to learn even more. Although creatives that worked on the comics such as Ian Flynn, Ben Bates, and Tracy Yardley have given tidbits about the ideas prior to the Super Genesis wave and the comic's end, the specific events within all of these stories will almost certainly remain a mystery for the foreseeable future. Saturn version of Sonic Adventure. Following the end of Nights into Dreams' development in August 1996, Yuji Naka and Sonic Team began creating various experimental builds on the Sega Saturn in order to test how the character might work in 3D. With the sole exception of Sonic World, which was reworked into a bonus feature for Sonic Jam, all of these builds have never been seen by the general public, and as a result, how they may have played or looked is unknown. Proper development on Sonic Adventure would commence in April 1997 with a team of 20 people, resulting in a prototype being made for the Saturn that, like the aforementioned experimental builds, we know virtually nothing about aside from the console's limitations causing the team problems. As a result, the game would be moved over to the Dreamcast shortly thereafter, as Takashi Iizuka explained in a retrospective interview with Retro Gamer that the Sega Saturn was very good at utilizing manipulated sprites to present a display that represented polygons, but the Dreamcast was a true 3D processing machine, so it was perfect for developing Sonic Adventure. While it's unlikely for this Saturn prototype and all of those builds to ever be seen again, it'd be really cool if they were included in a gallery or museum in a potential compilation of some of the 3D games. Speaking of compilations, Sonic 30th Anniversary Collection. On the 29th of February 2020, a thread was made on 4chan's V-board with this image alongside the caption, "Sega's preparing for a big Sonic reveal at South by Southwest that will bring most of the 3D mainline Sonic games to current and next-gen consoles. See you at South by Southwest." As you'd expect, the supposed leak spread like wildfire, with people debating the image's authenticity on Twitter, YouTube, Reddit, Reset Era, and many other sites. Later that same day, however, the 3D artist and animator TBSF would post an unblurred, zoomed-out version of the same image in Photoshop, revealing it to have been an incredibly impressive hoax. Sister Sonic. Sister Sonic was the original name for the Sega CD remake of Popful Mail, which was initially planned to be reworked into a spin-off for the Sonic series, much like how Yume Kojo Doki Doki Panic was converted into Super Mario Bros. 2. The titular male would have been reimagined as Sister Sonic, described by Sega Falcom director Kazutaka Yano as being a more mature girl with a flirtatious and sexy charm, while still retaining her role as a bounty hunter. Apparently she wouldn't have been Sonic's actual sister, but rather a female relative, which makes you wonder why they decided on that name, even if it was a placeholder of some kind. It's safe to assume that the rest of the game's cast would have either been reimagined as, or replaced with, Sonic characters, had Sega Falcom not changed course after angry fans of Popful Mail sent the company letters demanding a faithful remake for the add-on. They still plan to release the Sister Sonic version of the game internationally to better appeal to Western markets, but for unknown reasons, they scrapped the idea by the time they gave Working Designs the job of localizing Popful Mail, which would ultimately release in North America in early 1995. As of this video's upload, no screenshots, footage, or concept art of Sister Sonic are known to exist, and how far this version of the game got in development remains a mystery. Knuckles in Chinaland. Okay, this one is too fucking funny to not include. In the late 90s, this image of the Game Select screen from Sonic Compilation would start to do the rounds online due to its bizarre inclusion of something called Knuckles in Chinaland, which at the time fooled many people according to the Secrets of Sonic the Hedgehog website. The hoax was created by Ayla, a user responsible for numerous hacks relating to the Simon Y Sonic 2 beta, using the pseudonym of Samantha Clairfett to troll people in the community. Knuckles in Chinaland gained so much of a reputation that in 2005, the founder of the previously mentioned Secrets of Sonic the Hedgehog site, Andre Dirk, would release an actual fan game inspired by it. The game is described as being a learn Japanese game combined with a console-style RPG, with multiple endings and battles where you have to fight the Silveries of the Japanese writing system. I was so tempted to play it for myself to see if it's as fucking mental as it sounds, but the Wayback Machine wouldn't let me download it. Can't believe the bastards at the Internet Archive are stopping me from trying to learn Japanese, just total bullshit on their part. Eggman Nega. Arguably one of the most polarizing characters introduced in the games, Eggman Nega first appeared in Sonic Rush as Eggman's counterpart from the Soul Dimension, and then a year later when he appeared in Sonic Rivals, he was stated to be a future descendant of Eggman. Sonic Team has settled on the latter being his official backstory, but haven't given any sort of explanation for the retcon and why he would have lied over something so utterly trivial like where he came from. That's not the only thing he's lied about apparently, as his original page on the Sonic Channel website states that his real name is not clear. This implies that he willingly chose this, of all things, to be what every other character calls him. Also, his existence means it's canon that Eggman fucks, which is absolutely hilarious. Who did he shag? Did they get married? How many kids did they have? Surely one of the series' all-time greatest mysteries, and it's all because of this wanker. Cream the Rabbit's father. Cream is the only Sonic character to canonically have a parent, sorry guys, having appeared alongside her mother Vanilla in many games, comics, TV shows, and audio plays. So where's her father? He's never been seen or referenced in any of the games, nor in any expanded media. What gives? Well, we got somewhat of an answer in the 7th volume of Phantasy Star Players Enjoy Club, where Cream's creator Akinori Nishiyama revealed, Cream actually lost her father early on, and because of that, her mother Vanilla was strictly disciplined with Cream, resulting in a character who speaks in a polite desu masu tone. The Sonic Wikizone further clarifies that the usage of these characters specifically means that her father passed away, although it's unclear how. Was it because of natural causes? Did he have an illness? Was he killed in a war? Did he lose all of his rings and fall into a bottomless pit, resulting in a game over? We may never know. Dreads, aka Red Sonic. On the 6th of August 2012, Sonic Stadium user Oblivion the Hog would post a topic to the Sonic Chat section of the forums entitled, "Was Knuckles a Red Sonic in the prototype of Sonic 3? Probably." They claimed to have rediscovered an old issue of a Portuguese gaming magazine called Maxi Gonçalves that had preview images of a very early Sonic 3 beta featuring a red hedgehog named Dreads, who Oblivion stated was a Sonic clone created by Robotnik. The thread quickly gained traction on the site, and as you can probably guess from some of the previous entries, speculation ran rampant as to whether these images were legitimately from a beta build that used a recolored Sonic sprite as a placeholder, mock-ups made by the magazine itself, or outright hoaxes by Oblivion, who would frequently make excuses about their inability to share higher quality scans or raw images of the magazine itself. But a few weeks later, they would share something even more insane to the topic, something that blew the whole community's mind. They had footage of an alpha prototype of Sonic 3, including the Red Sonic. Here it is now.
My boy.
Yeah, of course it was a hoax the entire time. A damn good effort though. It had a lot of people fooled on Sonic Stadium and Sonic Retro for a while. Sonic Adventure 3. There has been no shortage of rumours and hoaxes when it comes to Sonic Adventure 3. The earliest one I could find is from May 30th, 2002, alleging that the game would feature Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and Shadow as playable characters, as well as the best camera system ever seen in any platformer ever. Another rumour would circulate in August that same year, claiming that a listing for the game at the Tokyo Game Show had been found, and that Sega would reveal it to the world for the first time at the event. The Tokyo Game Show came and went, of course, and there was no sign of Sonic Adventure 3 whatsoever. You've also got website domains being registered for the game in 2012, the internal codename of a supposed game in development being Sonic Adventure 3, the Daily Bullshit, the Daily Express, writing a clickbait article based on a joke tweet from the Sonic Twitter account, a now deleted 4chan post in 2022 claiming that the game would come out in 2027, and an article on The Gamer in 2024 regurgitating the information from said 4chan post for easy clicks. Let's be honest with ourselves here. Sonic Adventure 3 will probably never happen, and that's for the best, because people would inevitably set unrealistically high expectations for it, and then get angry and disappointed when it doesn't fulfill them. Let's move on. Grinch Leak, aka Shadow in Smash Ultimate. So, the 24th of October to the 1st of November 2018. That was a scary week to be in the Smash Bros community. For those who somehow didn't know about this or just can't remember, the supposedly finalized banner for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate was posted to Snapchat by an unknown user, seemingly revealing the game's last 7 fighters. These were Ken from Street Fighter, the Chorus Kids from Rhythm Paradise, Isaac from Golden Sun, Mark Ryder from the eponymous NES game, Gino from Super Mario RPG, Banjo and Kazooie, who would thankfully make it into the actual game's Fighters Pass, and a long overdue second representative for the Sonic series, Shadow the Hedgehog. You should know the drill by now based on the previous entries. Lots of speculation, lots of debate about whether it was real or fake, and unprecedented disappointment when it turned out to be the latter. I mean, holy shit. Some people were fucking livid after the November 1st Direct dropped and completely debunked the hoax. I distinctly remember there were some people declaring they would cancel their pre-orders and blaming Sakurai for getting their hopes up because... yeah. It was totally his fault that some guys on the internet with too much free time wanted to troll people with a very believable fake leak. Shadow would be revealed in the aforementioned Direct as an assist trophy, leaving Sonic without a second fighter yet again. I'm hoping that he'll appear in the next game, whenever that may be. It's kind of a no-brainer, and I'm still surprised that Sakurai didn't include him as one in Ultimate. Regardless, this whole shit show reminded everyone that literally anybody can make a fake leak and to take things with a grain of salt online. Blaze Hedgehog's many hoaxes. Those of you that have seen Did You Know Gaming's excellent video on Sonic hoaxes will no doubt be aware that the YouTuber Blaze Hedgehog, well known for his Better Late Than Never video games series, produced a fair share of hoaxes in the early to mid-2000s. These ranged from the scrapped Sonic 2 level Genocide City Zone being shown at E3 in 1992, despite E3 not being a thing until 1995, to a Shadow the Hedgehog sequel being revealed in a gaming magazine that somebody on 4chan's VBoard immediately outed as being fake according to Blaze. He has a fantastic blog on his website where he discusses the various hoaxes he made over the years, and explains his reasons for making them. I was making fake game screenshots in the hopes of legitimately fooling people. Not a lot of people, mind you. Again, it was mainly something I did with my friends. The truth is, I was having fun. It was a lot like making a real game, except here, the game was seeing how long it would take before people figured out the ruse. Every time they'd unravel the current solution, it would inspire me to make something even more devious and complicated the next time around. If you want to learn more about Blaze's hoaxes, then I'd highly recommend checking out his blog post, as well as the Did You Know Gaming video I mentioned previously. I'll link both of them in the description. Sonic the Hedgehog Awakening. This has got to be the most mysterious thing in the entire franchise. Seriously, name one other unreleased Sonic game that doesn't have any screenshots, videos, concept art, prototype builds, mentions in a magazine during the time of its supposed development, or literally anything that could verify its existence. The only reason we know about it is because Pete Capella, the voice actor for Silver the Hedgehog at the time, listed the game as something he had done voiceover work for on his website. A few people have theorised that Sonic the Hedgehog Awakening may have been an early name for Sonic Unleashed or Sonic Rivals 2, rather than an unheard of cancelled game, but I don't know if I subscribe to that idea. Surely Capella, or somebody else involved in the series, would have said so at some point in the 11 years since Awakening was brought to the fandom's attention. I don't know. Maybe we'll find out what the hell this actually was someday, but I doubt it, given the complete lack of visual evidence for its existence. And please, for the love of God, don't go pestering Pete or any other voice actors with questions about whatever this was. I'm sure they've received enough as is. Sonic Rift. The Sonic Rift leaks annoyed me to no end, purely because nobody would shut the hell up about them. Every other week from late 2019 to early 2021, it felt like somebody would cook up some new bullshit about this apparent 30th anniversary game. You'll be able to teleport by throwing rings. Sonic will travel to other dimensions. The adventure formula is back. Sonic will be voiced by Ben Schwartz. There's a new move called the Slide. Fucking hell, dude, alright. The only good thing to come out of this garbage was a very cool fan-made logo by Xeno Scarlet, who wanted to see if he could pass it off as a leaked image from a trailer. It didn't work, but, you know, points for trying. Aside from that, this whole hoax was pretty shit and is only remembered because people were desperate for any information on a brand new 3D Sonic game after Forces. Sonic Dimensions. I have a lot of fondness for this one, as it takes me back to when the two things I was most excited for in life was Sonic Generations and the fucking Wii U. 2011 was a simpler time, and I was a simple little gremlin with unlimited access to a Windows XP computer that I'd end up finding this leak on. Sonic Dimensions was said to be a spiritual successor to Sonic Colors and an exclusive to Nintendo's brand new system that would utilize its touchscreen. The game's major gimmick would be Sonic getting split into different colors, with each one having new powers and a different personality. For example, Purple Sonic would have a dark, no-nonsense attitude and be able to move platforms, while Orange Sonic would have the personality of the best character, Big the Cat. Also, Nintendo developers were apparently working on the game's level design. If that sounds too good to be true, it was. Takashi Iizuka would debunk the leaks during an interview about Sonic 4 Episode 2 with Spong? How the fuck is this pronounced? Whatever. They asked him, "Can you say whether the rumour of a game called Sonic Dimensions on the Wii U is true or false?" To which he replied, "Sonic Dimensions? I think it's a complete hoax." And how did young Hysterian react to this news? I don't know, it was 13 fucking years ago. I can barely remember what I did on my birthday this year. Tells you how good my sodding memory is. Sonic Heroes Remake. Right, talking about how shockingly bad my memory is, I could have sworn that leaks about a remake of Sonic Heroes were doing the rounds all the way back in 2018, but I guess not. I couldn't find anything online supporting that belief. Anyway, the rumours about this were kickstarted on March 25th, 2024, when Philippe Lima quote-tweeted the original game's cover art with, "Would you play this remake in Unreal Engine 5? And would later post a full report to his website, Universo Nintendo, citing the former leaker Midori as one of his sources. Although Midori initially replied, "This is correct information," to Philippe's tweet, they would soon backtrack somewhat and clarify, "The Sonic Heroes remake is being considered, but I do not think the original source is correct about it being released in 2026 or 2027. I do not know about this remake title being released in the next 3 years, and I don't have any information on that." As of this video's upload, there hasn't been any further news, leaks, or any indication from Sega and Sonic Team that a remake of Heroes is in development. I feel pretty confident in saying there won't be one, and that there were never any plans for it, solely because of Iizuka's comments in interviews about potential remakes of Adventure 1 and 2, where he's gone on record as saying, "Instead of using all that time and energy to remake a game that people have already experienced, we could make a brand new game instead." In summation, this was likely just a hoax that managed to gain traction through an at-the-time reliable leaker corroborating it. Silver's future. One place that has barely been explored in any of the games or comics is Silver the Hedgehog's future. It obviously started off as, well, the UK during a summer heatwave when it first appeared in Sonic 06, before being relegated to occasional mentions whenever Silver would show up in later games like the Rivals duology and Forces. And no, before anyone tries to correct me, Onyx Island from Rivals 1 doesn't count since it was brought from the future to the present, plus it has fuck all to visually differentiate it from any other island that's shown up in the games. We'd finally see it again, albeit incredibly briefly, in the 8th issue of the IDW comics as an abandoned planet with sparse metallic plant life, as well as in the 31st issue as an advanced, peaceful utopia. That's awesome and all, but where is everybody? Who lives here aside from Silver? Does he have any friends in this good future? Why is there a magazine with Big the Cat on the cover in this Sonic Channel artwork of Silver in said future? Did he bring it back with him from the past? Or is Big a massively popular historical figure as he bloody well should be? Why does it also appear in this Sonic Channel artwork from 2022 of Silver in an apocalyptic future akin to 06? And how does the future work exactly? Take issue 8 of IDW, like I mentioned before. Silver says that he went back in time because his future was conquered by the Eggman Empire, and then when he returned to it, everything had been affected by the metal virus. Why wasn't his future already affected by the metal virus, given that it happened after the events of Forces where, let's not kid ourselves here, Silver himself didn't do anything that would have substantially altered the course of history? Does the future timeline just suddenly change overnight if some shit goes down in the present day? Fucking hell, my head hurts. Forget it, Silver's future is weird and should stay a mystery as far as I'm concerned. Modern sticks. In the final cutscene of Sonic Frontiers, Amy says this.
I wonder if cream and sticks are free. Make a road trip out of it.
This effectively confirms that a mainline, modern counterpart of Styx the Badger from Sonic Boom exists. She's canon and is out there somewhere, which opens the door to her appearing in future games, right? Well, maybe. Ian Flynn revealed in the January 1st, 2023 installment of Bumblecast that name-dropping Styx and trying to solidify her modern incarnation was kind of testing the waters to see what I could do, with no guarantees that anything would come of it. It's worth noting that she isn't mentioned in the Japanese version of that Frontiers cutscene, and was also replaced by Blaze the Cat in this beautiful artwork for Christmas 2023 by Minho Kim. The reasons for these changes aren't clear, and only time will tell if we'll actually see modern Styx in some capacity. Number of Chaos Emeralds. There's 7 of them, you fucking idiot. Always have been, dating back to the weird Sonic Bible in 1991. Aside from Sonic the Fighters, where there were 8, but that was just to align with the number of playable characters, and where's the grey one? Why is there a pink one and an orange one all of a sudden? Okay, those were probably just mistakes. This is the game where Robotnik is called Robotonic after all, so it having more than 7 Chaos Emeralds is just a bit of an oddity, like Sonic Spinball having 16 of them, and that game isn't canon, so...
It's canon?
Oh. Okay, why are there 16 of them? Why are they all blue? Where are they nowadays? Why haven't we seen them again? Are there multiple sets of Chaos Emeralds and these ones got lost? Does Spinball being canon mean that Sally, Bunny, Rota and Muskie are all canon too since they appear in the game? Please, Ian, can I have a crumb of an explanation?
Don't think too hard about it.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. I wouldn't want to try and explain the lore complications of a spin-off about pinball either. Chasing Shadows one-shot. Chasing Shadows was a planned one-shot comic book starring Shadow, shocking I know, I was expecting Porker Lewis, that would have been written by Keel Fegley with line art by Mauro Fonseca. The idea to do a standalone issue about Shadow stemmed from his recent silver screen debut in the third Sonic film and his massive popularity within the fanbase. Fegley described the story in a Blue Sky post as The Wicker Man but with Shadow, where he would try to discover the dark secret of an isolated village after witnessing strange happenings, eventually learning of their connection to one of the villagers. It would also have seen the introduction of a new villain named Bones the Falcon, after Fegley's original pitch to bring back a previous antagonist from the franchise was rejected, though who this was has never been revealed and likely never will be. The issue was originally set to be released in March of 2025, before repeatedly getting delayed and eventually cancelled outright, owing to some staff members leaving, as well as the comic not fitting the schedule or workflow of the line, according to Fegley. Our editors at IDW were great all the way through. These things just happen sometimes in publishing, and it's crummy. Unless IDW decides to revive this one-shot in the future, or perhaps publish the script in one of their hardcover volumes along with some concept art, the specific events of the story and the design of Bones the Falcon will, unfortunately, be a mystery to us all. Sonic 3 Beta Hoax. This is another one that I'm going to keep brief, as there's a lot less information about it than I initially thought. On December 31st, 2000 at 11:59pm, an alleged beta version of Sonic 3 was posted to the front page of the Sonic Stuff Research Group website, snapshots of which regrettably do not exist. This was, in fact, a ROM hack of the game created by fandom veteran Saxman, who would come clean on the website's now defunct Area 51 message board. Okay, I wanted this to go on for as long as possible until somebody figured it out and blabbed, but I see this isn't going to happen, so to save all the confusion, I hacked Sonic 3 to make this beta hoax. It's not real. I'm terribly sorry about this. I didn't know I would make this many people believe it was real. Only Stealth and Sonic Blur figured it out. Anyway, I suppose the hype will stop now, but I want everyone to realise that they can accomplish cool things by hacking, the reason why I encourage people to hack Sonic ROMs. He explained that he made the hoax ROM over the course of a year by looking through as many early screenshots of Sonic 3 as he could, and finding any information available about the beta. If you want to play it for yourself, it's available to download on Sonic Retro, which I'll link in the description. The Isometric Sonic Game. This might be a throwback for some of you. Who watched Me, You and Me 2's excellent 3-part video about the development of Sonic Extreme 13 years ago? Oh my fucking god, I feel ancient. If you did, you may recall that he discussed 3 different pitches that Sega Technical Institute made for their own Sonic game, including an isometric platformer akin to Sonic 3D Blast and Sega Sonic the Hedgehog. For years, this mock-up image has been cited as the only existing material related to that pitch by YouTubers, fan wikis, and websites that make top 10 lists about cancelled Sonic games but cover 11 of them. Learn to count, you dipshits. However, this was not some unnamed isometric Sonic game that got cancelled, nor was it ever pitched to Sega of America. This is actually Sonic Mars, the scrapped 32X spin-off that eventually morphed into Sonic Extreme. The image was created by Chris Sen, one of the key figures in the development of both titles, who explained on his personal website's forums, "That is a mock-up image I created somewhere during the 32X development to explore an isometric version of our game. It is not a screen capture, but a mock-up using 3D software and Photoshop. As to what the gameplay was going to be, etc., didn't explore that for the screenshot, so much as seeing if the look could be cool." Mystery solved, I guess. Unproduced Sonic films. There were so many attempts to get a Sonic the Hedgehog film made prior to 2020. They weren't very good. I won't go into full detail about each individual project, that's not really the purpose of an Iceberg video, and they honestly deserve in-depth videos of their own someday. But I will cover the basics, starting with Sonic the Movie. Pitched in 1994 as part of a deal that MGM and Trilogy Entertainment Group had with Sega, this would have been an incredibly faithful adaptation of the games, with Sonic being the mutant alter ego of rebellious teenager Jimmy Hedgeman who drinks and drives in his first scene, Knuckles being a giant mutant with huge paws named Kentar as a result of an experiment by the film's villain, Dr. Paul Ellison, who is a famous scientist with robotic fingers that kidnaps Jimmy's dad to help him replace humanity with genetically engineered half-human, half-animal creatures. Sega, for reasons I can't possibly imagine, fucking hated this and requested a more faithful adaptation, leading to MGM and Trilogy's second, and as far as we know final pitch, Sonic the Hedgehog Wonders of the World. And oh boy, if I had a penny for every official story where Sonic jumps out of a video game and enters the real world, I'd have 2p. Which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. So yeah, after a kid named Josh Pinsky hooks his Sega Saturn up to his father's supercomputer to play Sonic Extreme, he ends up bringing Sonic and Robotnik into reality. Many daft hijinks ensue. Sonic and Josh team up to stop Robotnik from turning people into badniks so that he can find the Chaos Emeralds and turn the planet's landmarks into digital replicas for virtual reality experiences that he can make a massive profit from. This is the stupidest thing I've ever read and I love it. Holy shit. Ultimately, the film was cancelled before it went into production due to MGM and Trilogy both pulling out of the deal to develop it. Almost a decade later, Ben Hurst of Sonic Sat.AM fame would attempt to pitch a revival of said series as a feature film to Sega after having a pleasant conversation with an executive at the company who was open to the idea. What happened next isn't clear because of conflicting accounts from those involved. Hurst alleged that he was called by Ken Penders about the film and subsequently offered to involve the writer in the project, only to call the Sega executive back and be shocked when she lit into him, saying, "People pay us to develop Sonic products, we don't pay them," before she hung up the phone. When recalling this on the alt-fan Sonic Hedgehog Usenet group, he stated, "Obviously, Penders had related my strategy to them in a less than flattering way. Thanks for the knife, Ken." Penders, however, has a different side of the story, claiming that Hurst had telephoned him and, quote, "asked if I would use my contacts at Sega to see if they would be interested in paying me and him to develop a new animated Sonic project." He didn't sign on to the proposal, believing that Sega would expect to be paid by them in order to develop the film, which was supported by a subsequent conversation he had with the executive. Regardless of what actually happened, the possibility of a Sat.AM film or continuation was abandoned by Hurst. Quick disclaimer here before I continue, please don't go and bother Ken Penders about this whole thing. It was over 20 years ago, he's said his piece and moved on from it. Whatever your opinion of him may be, you're absolutely entitled to it, but just leave him be. I do not condone any harassment towards him. Okay, cool. Let's talk about his pitch for a Sonic film. Titled Sonic Armageddon, it would have been based on the Archie comics, as you can see in these pieces of concept artwork, that also show what appears to be Mobius getting blown up, and a bloody gruesome robotization process. No script or plot details have ever been shared publicly, so whether or not these things would have actually happened or were just potential ideas remains unknown. Penders' company of choice to produce the film was DreamWorks, as they had a partnership with Sega at the time, although it was never pitched to them directly, since the project was cancelled in 2007 because of what he described as massive corporate upheaval. DreamWorks also reached out to him at some point about the possibility of acquiring the rights to make a Knuckles the Echidna film. I can't begin to imagine what that would have been like. Okay, shit, I've been rabbling on about this topic for way too long, but here's one last bit of info. Before the rights to make a Sonic film were acquired by Paramount, they belonged to Sony, who apparently wanted to give the character the Dark Knight treatment and aimed for a PG-13 rating. Thank God they put the film in turnaround. Classic Sonic's voice. In Sonic Generations and Sonic Forces, Classic Sonic is mute and never speaks. Fair enough. He didn't have anything to say in the Mega Drive games, or any game prior to Sonic Adventure for that matter. But Classic Tails and Classic Robotnik both talk in Generations, so why doesn't he? Is he actually mute? That can't be the case, since the Classic Era one-shots and miniseries by IDW are canon, and he speaks in those with no problem. Was he being a dick for no reason and decided he didn't want to talk to anyone? Was he nervous? Did he go to karaoke night before the events of both games and lose his voice after belting out Mr. Brightside? What is the in-universe explanation for why he doesn't speak? We may never know. I'm also going to take this opportunity to debunk a common claim I see online. Jaleel White was not planned to be the voice of Classic Sonic in Generations, as cool as that would have been. He said himself on Twitter that he was never approached by Sega about reprising the role, and I can only assume this rumour is a result of people misinterpreting what Aaron Webber said in interviews around that time. What happened to Little Planet after Sonic 4? One of Sonic 4 Episode 2's key plot points is Little Planet's getting encased within the newly built Death Egg Mark II, and remaining there even in the game's good ending to presumably get resolved in Episode 3. And then Sega cancelled Episode 3, meaning that Little Planet's final chronological appearance in the series thus far, aside from the Metal Sonic boss fight in Generations, has it trapped inside a big evil space station helplessly floating in space. What happened to it afterwards? Did Sonic and Tails go back to free it, or has it just been stuck in there this entire time, completely forgotten by everybody? The Sonic World story on the Japanese website states that the Death Egg Mark II was destroyed, but it looks perfectly fine to me. Did it get destroyed off screen? If so, how? Is Episode 3 canon even if it wasn't made? Was Little Planet destroyed too? As somebody who really liked Episode 2 growing up, I hope that we get some clarification and answers to these questions eventually, because I can't see Little Planet showing up in a modern game without this being addressed. And that segues us nicely into... how did Eggman escape white space? Yeah, this is something I've been asking ever since Lost World came out, and neither explained nor acknowledged it for some bizarre reason. The writers had done this sort of thing perfectly beforehand, with Eggman revealing that he got out of being stranded in space at the end of Colors once he discovered the Time Eater, flawlessly connecting it to Generations. Why they didn't do something similar in Lost World is beyond me. It could have been something as simple as classic and modern Eggman finding that door they thought they saw, modern Eggman going through it, and somehow ending up on the Lost Hex. Alas, no official explanation for how they managed to escape from white space has ever been given, and I expect that'll continue to be the case. Sonic Sports. The March 1995 issue of Game Players magazine seemingly had an exclusive scoop in its gaming gossip section, that being that the long-awaited Sonic Sports game, which is said to resemble Acme All-Stars with Sonic, Tails, Rystar, and the rest of the Sega gang competing in sports events like basketball, volleyball, and soccer, was still in development for the Sega 32X. I have no idea what they meant by still, because this was the first and only time that this game was mentioned by anybody, even Sega themselves. In the decades since the publication of this issue, no screenshots, gameplay footage, concept art, or any other evidence for the game's existence has been found, and no one claiming to have worked on it has ever come forward with any information, which makes me somewhat skeptical. At least somebody who was actually involved in the series revealed whatever the hell Sonic the Hedgehog Awakening was, whereas Sonic Sports only had a throwaway mention in a gaming magazine that Sega had no involvement in. Regardless of my uncertainty, if the game was indeed real, then it's safe to assume that the reason it went unreleased, much like the X-Men and Batman Forever titles mentioned in that same article, is due to the 32X's failure. Ashura in Sonic R. Chances are, even if you're a casual fan of the Sonic series, you've heard of Ashura. Originally a glitched sprite palette activated in Emerald Hill Zone through a specific use of debug mode, it soon became a phenomenon within the early online Sonic community, where he would be fleshed out into the long-lost twin brother of the Blue Blur with an edgier attitude to boot, and would also go on to serve as the inspiration for Scourge and Surge from the Archie and IDW comics respectively. He was so popular that rumours circulated about how to trigger the Ashura glitch in Sonic 1, Sonic 3, and strangest of all, Sonic R. These screenshots of the game from June of 2002 show him with a slightly different look, replacing his usual black forehead with orange accents, and a small hint of blue around his eyes. These were soon revealed to have been a hoax by AJ Frieda, the co-founder of Sonic Roboblast 2 if I'm not mistaken, who sent them into the Secrets of Sonic the Hedgehog website along with an explanation of how he did it. If you look closely, the model is completely shaded and everything. What I did was directly edited the texture files for Sonic and made him that colour, so you can play like that too. As far as I can tell, the texture files he was referring to weren't posted on the website, so if you really want to play as Ashura in Sonic R, I guess you'll have to crack open the game's files and edit them yourself. Sonic 06 for Wii. With the 7th generation of consoles well underway, Sega naturally wanted to put their new flagship Sonic title for the 15th anniversary on all of the new systems, including Windows computers and of course, the Wii, with the company apparently expecting that Nintendo's next console would feature similar specs to Sony and Microsoft's next-gen offerings. Then they received the dev kits and probably shouted, "Oh, pissing hell," when they realised that porting it over would be a nightmare due to it being significantly less powerful than the 360 and PS3. This resulted in the Wii ports being dropped in favour of a brand new game that would not only release close to the console's launch, but also take full advantage of its motion controls, hence Sonic and the Secret Rings. How far this port got in development, if at all, and whether a dedicated version of the game for the Wii was considered or not is unclear. No concrete information has ever surfaced, and when asked about the possibility in an interview with IGN, Secret Rings director Yojiro Ogawa stated, "If we had done that, the game would have been delayed by quite a long time. We would have needed to wait for the PS3 and 360 teams to finish their development." Now I'm kind of left wishing they had committed to porting it over. Who knows? Maybe as a result, Sonic Team would have been given more time by Sega to fulfill their vision for the game. If only. Archie Blog Short Stories. From November 2010 to May 2011, Ian Flynn would write and publish a variety of short stories on the Archie Comics Sonic the Hedgehog and Sonic Universe blogs, with nearly all of them having the narrative framing device of being an in-universe letter, diary entry, email, or databank written by one of the characters. Examples include an email correspondence between Rouge the Bat and Commander Tower, a personal log by Blaze the Cat's creatively named personal guard Garden, notes penned by Mina Mongoose among her ideas for song lyrics, and a series of prequels to the Silver Saga arc from Sonic Universe that further expand on the Dark Mobius timeline. Both blogs went defunct at some point prior to the end of Archie and Sega's partnership, but thankfully, all of these stories are available for anyone to read on Sonic Wikizone, at least to my knowledge. There may be a few that were missed, but I can't find any information to suggest that. I do know, however, that the images used for the majority of them are now lost to time. Granted, these images were just reused panels from the comics, but hey, which specific panels they were counts as a mystery. Plus, having this on the iceberg means I get to raise awareness of these really cool stories. If you're a fan of the Archie comics and somehow haven't checked these out yet, then please do. Second Tangle and Whisper miniseries. I don't really have all that much to say about this one, to be honest. Evan Stanley revealed in a blog post on March 6, 2023, that she and Ian Flynn had considered producing a follow-up to the Tangle and Whisper miniseries that would have taken place after the events of the Trial by Fire arc, but ultimately chose to scrap it. She explained that it was interesting, but would have led to Tangle doing some really shitty, emotionally manipulative stuff to Whisper that left a bad taste in our mouths. No bueno. Rest assured knowing that won't happen. What they planned for Tangle to do had they gone ahead with these plans, and the overall direction the story may have taken, is perhaps best left unknown. Chaos Gamma. With only a singular appearance in the entire series, including expanded media where he hasn't even been referenced once, Chaos Gamma is arguably the most mysterious Sonic character. He's a test subject for Eggman's experiments with the Chaos Emeralds in Sonic Battle, having been built from parts of older or destroyed robots such as the original Gamma, who he makes clear throughout the game's story is not the same robot as him. Yep, despite having a near-identical design and the same name, they're nothing alike. So much so that the Japanese website for Sonic Battle describes him as a robot that once lost its memory to help a small bird. Sorry, hang on, what? Are they implying that they are the same robot and Gamma survived getting blown to shit at the end of Sonic Adventure? Literally how? That bastard is dead, look at him, look at his body. And why was Gamma, a robot that's practically the same as Gamma, even built by Eggman given that he betrayed him? Did he just get lazy? Luckily, my good friend Josiah Blaze has quite a plausible out-of-universe theory to explain all this that I'm almost certain is correct. Since Battle was developed alongside Heroes, and Heroes was originally going to have Gamma as a playable character, Chaos Gamma is a remnant from that. When Gamma was scrapped from Heroes, they kept him in Sonic Battle, but tried to establish him as a separate character. Not got a Scooby about an in-universe explanation, or what the hell happened to him after Sonic Battle though. Maybe he went to live on a farm with all of Eggman's other forgotten robots. Breeze the sentient car. I'm the last person to question the laws of nature in a universe with super fast blue hedgehogs, foxes with two tails, echidnas with spiked hands, lavender cats with fire powers, and birds that can't bloody fly. But there are lines that have to be drawn sometimes, and I am drawing one at this funny little car named Breeze from the Sonic Drift games. Breeze is a very nice, smart-looking Volkswagen Beetle-esque car belonging to Amy. Aw, just look at how happy they are. Breeze is also alive. How is this possible? How can the funny little car be alive? The Japanese manual for the first Sonic Drift says that Breeze is a mysterious machine that possesses a heart. Does this mean he literally has a heart somewhere among the thousands of individual components? Was he built in a factory? Does he have parents? Was he delivered by a car stalk plane thingy? Why aren't any of the other cars in the Sonic universe sentient? Why hasn't he appeared in any of the racing games released since 1995? Did Amy scrap him and buy a new car? I hope not, because he looks very polite and I really like him, despite the many questions his existence raises. Stardust Speedway's bad future in Sonic 4. Alright, this one I'm genuinely baffled by. The opening cutscene in Sonic 4 Episode Metal shows Eggman rocking up on Stardust Speedway via Zoom call to revive Metal Sonic. In the bad future. For this to be possible, Sonic would have had to fail in retrieving the Time Stones and destroying the robot transporters in CD, which would mean that the game's bad ending is canon. Except it can't be, because in the aforementioned opening cutscene, Little Planet isn't covered in metal plating and chained up to a mountain in Never Lake. So that would mean the good ending is canon despite Stardust Speedway being in the bad future, which again is only possible if Sonic failed to retrieve the Time Stones. God almighty, I fucking hate this. Somebody please retcon it. Let's move on. Red Mountain Prisoners. In the volcano section of Sonic Adventure's Red Mountain, you can find these things imprisoned in padlocked cages with a spiked ball attached to the bracelets on their non-existent ankles. To call them unnerving would be an understatement, as their design is radically different from anything else in the game, and their presence in the level is never acknowledged by any of the characters that travel through it. The only time they are addressed is the 30th mission in the DX port, with the description, "A fugitive have escaped from the jail of Burning Hell! Find the fugitive!" in which you must perform a homing attack chain on a bunch of spinner badniks to reach the fugitive that's just standing there, menacingly on a platform. What are these things, and what did they do to warrant being imprisoned in the jail of Burning Hell? Are they ghosts like everyone online believes, or are they some odd, unique species like the Zeti? Why are their bodies made up entirely of rings, apart from what seems to be brown shoes? How did they end up on Angel Island? Did Knuckles' ancestors or some other ancient civilization lock them up? Now that I think about it, they vaguely look like the ancients from Sonic Frontiers. Is there perhaps a connection between the two? Let me know what you think, I'm curious to hear. Super Tails in Sonic 2. Another very self-explanatory one that, like the Sonic 3 beta hoax, has a lot less information on it than I first believed. There were a number of rumours in the early 90s relating to collecting all of the Chaos Emeralds as Tails in Sonic 2, and that doing so would allow him to go super just like Sonic. This wasn't the case, as anyone that tried would eventually find out they'd unlocked bugger all. But it didn't stop some fans from perpetuating it online, like this hoax screenshot of Tails transforming in Emerald Hill Zone. However, there is technically a way to play as Super Tails in the original release using debug mode, which gives Tails the power sneakers and invincibility power-ups until the end of the level or when he dies from a bottomless pit. Aside from stars surrounding him at all times, there's no other visual differences to this quote-unquote super form. I'll put a guide from the Sonic Wiki Zone on screen, so you can pause the video and give it a shot for yourself if you're interested. Doctor Who's Sonic the Hedgehog anomaly. Let me put you in a hypothetical scenario for a moment. You're a Sonic fan at Comic-Con, minding your own business when you see somebody wearing a Sonic cosplay or something. Naturally, you go over to them and strike up a conversation about your favourite game, where you say, "Oh boy, I sure do love the original that was released on the Mega Drive in 1991, and then without any hesitation or a hint of sarcasm, they reply, "It was released in 1989. What? The original Sonic game was released in 1989. No, it was. Yeah, it was. It came out in 1989. Seems daft, right? There's no way that anyone could possibly get something like the year of a game's release wrong, especially if they were going to reference said game in a novel for a major sci-fi franchise. Business Unusual is a Doctor Who novel written by Gary Russell that featured the Sixth Doctor, his companion Mel Bush, and close ally Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart. In a part of the story clearly stated to be set on the 25th of July 1989, the Brigadier is said to be incurious about video games, although he was aware that Sonic was a blue hedgehog. You know, for a man who doesn't give a toss about video games, it's impressive he knows who Sonic is 2 years before he came into existence. Unless, of course, in the Doctor Who universe, Sonic 1 released on the 24th of July 1989 at the absolute latest for the Brig to know who the hell he was. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. Hysterion. It's a time travel franchise. The Brigadier probably went into the future with his good mate Docky Who and saw a demo kiosk of Sonic at a Rumbelows. And yeah, that might be plausible. If this novel set in 1989 didn't mention Britain's involvement in the Gulf War, a conflict that didn't begin until a year after. I sure hope someone got fired for these blunders. Big is a god. This is a personal theory that I feel very strongly about, if you couldn't tell by the fact I made this video, which you should totally check out after finishing this one. Ever since his debut in Sonic Adventure, Big the Cat has performed countless feats that can only be described as miracles. He survives climbing through some kind of nuclear reactor, he survives the vacuum of space, he's able to be in 2 different places at the same time, implying that he may have the ability to teleport, he has the power of invulnerability in Sonic Chronicles, he can speak to the dead and zodiac signs somehow. And with Sonic Racing Crossworlds, we've learnt even more insane shit about this guy's powers and abilities. His fishing rod designs are implied to be so complicated that Tails believes he may be a secret genius. Omega assesses his strength as being disproportionate to reasonable physical limits and deems him an S-rank level threat. Silver is shocked to find him so intensely focused and utterly unreadable even though he's just thinking about where to go fishing. And Zavok questions if he's feeling fear because of what Big said to him before the beginning of a race. Not to mention that both Rouge and Sage call him out on showing up in the most improbable places. Wait a minute. Has somebody at Sega seen my 40-minute long video analysis of this guy? Are they canonizing Big being a god? Nah, probably not. But if they have, hi guys, if you ever make a big spin-off game, please sponsor me for it. I will be your biggest shill and help you sell a fishillion copies. Sonic in Super Mario Galaxy 2. 4:05 PM. February 5th, 2010. By Nintendo Gamer. We've just had some shocking news from an inside source at Nintendo. Sonic will be a playable character in Mario Galaxy 2. What? Yeah, this was a hoax. Well, there we are then. That's everything on the iceberg covered. A massive thank you to everyone on screen that helped to make this video possible with their suggestions, and the invaluable resources of Sonic Retro, the Sonic Wiki Zone, and the Secrets of Sonic the Hedgehog website. I hope all of you chaps enjoyed watching, and I'll see you again soon with whatever the hell I decide to cover next time. Take care.